Everyday Alchemy, Plate 14. The Father strongly sweats and glows. The Father sweats, surrounding his Son, and pours out his prayers to God, to whom all things are possible, who creates and has created all things. He prays that his Son may be led from his body and be reborn as he was at first. God grants his prayer. It is not ignored, telling the Father to lie down and go to sleep. God sent down rain from heaven through the clear stars and truth. It was fruitful silver indeed. The Father's body is moistened and softened. By the help and grace of God, at the end, we may obtain thy gracious gift. The Father strongly sweats and glows, while oil in the true tincture from him flows. This is the incubation phase of your individuation. The Father has swallowed his Son, and now he is sick. The masculine needs the softening flow of the feminine, a baptism by water and then fire. The phase when one comes face to face with their fate, the dark night of the soul. The average individual eventually experiences this potential transformative state late in life. Take for example the type A personality, an overachiever, someone in a high-stress career, suddenly struck with a heart attack, coming to know the grace of God in a hospital bed. We can simply have an open-heart surgery of the spiritual kind. These dark nights cleanse the sensory and spiritual aspects of our soul, liberating it from the confines of the mind, adapting the eyes to see in the dark. This phase is meant to free us from the vice of spiritual pride. St. John stated, "Softened and humbled by hardship and other temptations and trials in which God exercises the soul in the course of this night, a person becomes meek towards God and himself, and also toward his neighbor." This calm comes from quieting the four fundamental human passions: joy, sorrow, hope, and fear. The soul is no longer in communication with the spirit. In Plate 14, we can see that the guide is no longer seen. This creates a place for the final sacred space, the void of unpredictable possibilities. The symbols of this state in the alchemical process are found in the symbol of a storm, dark clouds, rain, floods, and fire. Psychologically, this will manifest as bouts of depression, bipolar disorders, or a decline in health. The paradox we face during this phase is the more we must understand, the more difficult it becomes. Darkness always represents the feminine side of our psyches, fertile ground for planting seeds of self. So remember, even these rainy days water this tree of self-knowledge. The darker the night, the brighter the dawn, so don't give up. A better you will soon be born. The Father strongly sweats and glows.
The port was alive with strange faces. It was dawn by the time he found an old salt willing to part with the vessel for what bullion he had left. A cutter with a Bermuda rig called the Merciful, its sails ragged and ripped, its compass cracked, its rotten hull just barely able to cut the breakers, but it would be enough to make his escape. It wasn't for another hour, when he was a mile from the docks, that his thoughts turned back to her. He imagined her alone. By now, she would have searched the house and found it empty. She had suspected it all along, and now she knew he was a coward. coward dressed in the uniform of a brave man, brave enough to cross 2 oceans and a continent to find her, to fight countless enemies, and yet, in the end, he was terrified. He was terrified of her. To lie beside her, to be comforted by her as he wept, to show her he was small, for her to know that and touch his cheek and whisper words softly into his ear. All of that was a nightmare. All he knew to do was run. But he took a deep breath of the air, tasting the salt on his tongue, and closed his eyes, leaning into the spray as the Merciful picked up speed and sailed for the horizon. He was alone, and all was well.